Elianne Andam, a vibrant 15-year-old with dreams of a bright future, was known for her warm spirit and a smile that could light up any room. Born into a loving family in Croydon, South London, Elianne had her entire life ahead of her, filled with aspirations and the potential to make a meaningful impact. She was deeply cherished by her family, friends, and everyone who had the privilege of knowing her. A dedicated student, Elianne dreamed of becoming a lawyer, inspired by her sense of justice and compassion for others. Her family described her as a miracle baby, a gift they treasured every single day. Outside of her academic pursuits, she had a passion for helping others, a trait evident in her close-knit relationships with her friends. Elianne and #039's sense of loyalty and her empathetic nature made her the person everyone turned to in times of need. Despite her young age, she exuded a sense of maturity and understanding that belied her years, leaving a lasting impression on those around her. Her tragic and untimely death has left an irreplaceable void in the lives of her family and friends, turning a community hope into heartbreak and igniting a call to address the violence that robbed them of such a promising life. Elianne Andam's life was cut short in a tragedy that left her family, friends, and community devastated. On the morning of September 27, 2023, Elianne left home, filled with the usual energy and determination that characterized her. However, what was supposed to be a normal school day took a dark and fatal turn when an altercation over a seemingly trivial matter escalated into unthinkable violence. Elianne was at the Whitgift Centre in Croydon, South London, meeting a group of friends, including the ex-girlfriend of her eventual killer, Hassan Sentimo. The meeting was to exchange some belongings, and the incident initially seemed minor, focused on a bag containing personal items and, heartbreakingly, a teddy bear. However, tensions from the previous day lingered in the air. Sentimo, then 17 years old, had felt humiliated after a disagreement with the group of girls, who had expressed their frustration with his treatment of their friend, his former girlfriend. Water had been thrown on him during the argument, an act he interpreted as a grave insult. Carrying the weight of this perceived disrespect, Sentimo arrived at the shopping center armed with a knife. What should have been a simple exchange quickly escalated when Elianne snatched the bag from him. Witnesses described her actions as playful, but to Sentimo, it was a final provocation. His emotions boiled over into what the court later described as an explosive rage of savage violence. Elianne, realizing the danger, attempted to flee, but Sentimo pursued her with a knife. In a shocking and brutal act, he stabbed her multiple times, including a fatal 12 cm deep wound to her neck. The attack unfolded in broad daylight on a busy street, leaving bystanders horrified. Among them was a bus driver who rushed to Elianne's side, holding her hand and offering comfort in her final moments. Despite the efforts of emergency responders, Elianne succumbed to her injuries at the scene. The community was left reeling from the senseless loss of a young girl with so much promise. Elianne's family, shattered by the tragedy, struggled to comprehend the brutal circumstances of her death. Her father, Michael Andam, expressed the family's profound grief, describing how their lives were irrevocably changed by the loss of their beloved daughter. At just 15 years old, she had her whole life ahead of her, filled with hopes and dreams for the future, all cruelly taken away, he said outside the Old Bailey during the trial. The trial revealed harrowing details about Sentimo's actions and state of mind. Diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder at the age of 14, Sentimo had a troubled past marked by a difficult childhood, time in foster care, and violent behavior. Reports of self-harm, suicidal thoughts, and previous incidents involving knives painted a troubling picture. Just months before the attack, Sentimo had been cautioned for carrying a knife to school. Despite these warning signs, his violent tendencies culminated in the murder of Elianne, leaving many questioning how such a tragedy could have been prevented. In court, Sentimo admitted to manslaughter, claiming diminished responsibility due to his autism. However, the jury rejected this defense after nearly 12 hours of deliberation. The prosecution argued that his actions were calculated and fueled by a desire for revenge. Alex Chalk KC, the lead prosecutor, described how Sentimo had brooded on the insult from the day before and brought the knife to the scene to reassert dominance. The evidence painted a chilling picture of a young man who allowed anger and a need for control to escalate into deadly violence. Sentimo's conviction brought some semblance of justice to Elianne's family, but it could never undo the devastating loss. There were emotional scenes in the courtroom as the verdict was read. Sentemu, visibly distressed, wept in the dock, while members of Elianne's family embraced, holding on to one another for strength. Outside the court, Michael Andam vowed to honor his daughter's memory by fighting against knife crime and violence. This trial has been our fight for justice, forcing us to confront the devastating details of Elianne's final moments, details that will remain with us forever, he said. The community rallied around the Andam family, expressing their outrage and sorrow over the tragedy. The case reignited debates about knife crime in the UK, particularly among young people, and the need for stronger preventative measures. Many called for more robust interventions in schools, better support for troubled youth, and stricter penalties for carrying weapons. Elianne's death also highlighted the vulnerability of young women in particular. Friends and classmates spoke of the fear they now felt, with some even questioning whether they needed to carry knives themselves for protection. This tragic irony underscored the urgent need for systemic change to create safer environments for young people. In the days following her death, tributes poured in for Elianne. Her friends remembered her as a kind and caring person who always looked out for others. Teachers spoke of her bright future, recalling her determination to succeed and her aspirations of becoming a lawyer. Candlelight vigils were held in her honor, with hundreds gathering to pay their respects and call for an end to the violence that claimed her life. The tragedy of Elianne Andam's death serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of violence and the urgent need to address its root causes. Her story continues to resonate, inspiring efforts to tackle knife crime and protect young lives. Her family's determination to ensure that her legacy is one of hope and change stands as a powerful testament to the impact one life can have, even in the face of unimaginable loss. Elianne Andam's tragic death on September 27, 2023, sent shockwaves through her community and beyond. The young life, full of potential and dreams, was abruptly cut short in a violent act that left her family, friends, and the nation grappling with a profound sense of loss. The details of her death are not just a chilling reminder of the fragility of life but also highlight the urgent and ongoing issues surrounding youth violence, mental health, and the devastating consequences of knife crime. Sentemu, who had previously been known to carry knives and had a history of violent behavior, approached Elianne and her friends on that fateful day in Croydon. A minor altercation quickly escalated, and before anyone could fully grasp what was happening, Sentemu drew a knife and fatally stabbed Elianne in the chest. Her death was a result of a senseless act of violence, one that could have been prevented had the proper support systems been in place for both Elianne and Sentemu. The death of Elianne Andam raised crucial questions about the prevalence of knife crime, especially among young people. Knife crime has been on the rise in the United Kingdom, particularly in urban areas like London. The tragic event highlighted not only the devastating impact that such violence can have on individuals but also on communities, families, and the nation as a whole. For the Andam family, Elianne's death has left a void that can never be filled. Her father, Michael Andam, has been vocal about the pain and grief he feels, stating that his family will never be the same. His words echoed the heartbreak of a parent who had lost a child in the most senseless and violent way possible. Michael Andam's statements outside the Old Bailey during Sentemu's trial were a raw expression of the anguish that any parent would feel after losing their child. Yet, amid the pain, he showed remarkable strength in using his platform to call for greater awareness of knife crime and its impact on families. His plea for more to be done to prevent violence and protect young people from harm resonated with many who felt the weight of this loss as deeply as he did. The Andam family's grief was shared by many in the community, who were equally devastated by the loss of a bright, young life. As the trial unfolded, it became clear that Sentemu's actions were driven by a mixture of revenge and mental health struggles. The court heard that Sentemu had experienced difficulties with his mental health, including an autism spectrum disorder, and had been involved in previous incidents involving knives. While the defense argued that Sentemu's actions were influenced by his mental health, the jury ultimately did not accept this as a justification for his violent behavior. He was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison, with a minimum of 17 years before he could be considered for parole. While some may have sympathized with Sentemu's struggles, the reality is that Elianne's death was a result of his own decisions. Regardless of his past experiences or mental health issues, his choice to carry a knife and use it to settle a dispute was ultimately a decision of violence, one that cost an innocent young woman her life. Ensure that young lives like Elianne's are never taken so senselessly again. The tragedy of Elianne Andam is not just about one life lost, but about the larger societal issues that contribute to youth violence. It is about understanding the challenges faced by young people today and providing them with the resources and support they need to thrive without resorting to violence. It is about recognizing that no child should ever have to live in fear, and no parent should ever have to bury their child because of something as senseless as a knife fight. Elianne's story is one of loss, but it is also one of hope. Her family's strength in the face of such overwhelming grief serves as an example of the resilience of the human spirit. While nothing can ever bring Elianne back, her legacy can continue to make a difference. Her death may have been tragic, but through the advocacy and efforts of those who loved her, we can hope for a world where fewer families experience the pain that the Andams have endured.